Welcome to UNCAGED. Today we're speaking with Carl Bloomfield. We are going to be talking about insurance. We're going to be talking about risk management today. Carl is the managing director of the Graham Company, and he works in the enterprise risk management area. We'll talk a little bit about that, but also just kind of the broader plans going forward. Tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Sure. My career has been very interesting in that where I started is completely different from where I am today. Like many people, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of college. Actually, when I got out of college, I had to go in the Army. That was the commitment I made. Went to military college.
Yep.
Went into the military, and then when I got out, I worked in operations logistics, really trying to capitalize on leadership ability, the experience I had in getting things done. The military teaches you more than anything about its results, getting how to get stuff done. And I was very successful at that, but then made a career change after working for a few different operations logistics companies. I decided I wanted to use what I said, brains versus brawn. In the operations logistics world, it was all about kind of muscling, getting the work done, and leadership, and convincing your teams to accomplish the mission in a much more physical, tangible way. And I wanted to transition to more cerebral type work. And so I came to the Graham Company, and at first I had no interest in working for an insurance broker. Actually, in fact, I told the recruiter that was calling me and asking me to come to interview, I said, "What, you sell insurance?" I said, "No way, I have no interest in doing that whatsoever." But he told me, go on the interview. I think you'll be interested, you'll be intrigued. And I did, and that was 17 years ago. 17 years ago,
Wow.
I met with people that really opened my eyes to what the insurance brokers and risk managers do. And I just loved the people and the mission that the Graham Company had. And I've had a great ride at Graham. I've held a number of positions at Graham, ranging from running our construction practice to what I'm doing now, which is really leading our advisory consulting practice, enterprise risk management.
Yeah, well, I mean, amazing story. And obviously, thank you so much for your service. But I mean, clearly, as part of the Graham Company, you're managing director, you're driving the enterprise risk management space. Tell us a little bit about what that entails and really the plans going forward.
Sure. So we're helping companies solve their biggest problems, the problems that are going to prevent them from hitting their strategic plans. Enterprise risk is a very broad area, and really, to give a definition of it, I'd say it's anything that jeopardizes or the enterprise from hitting, their goals and their strategic plans. So if you look at the risks and challenges that companies have, the top 5 risks, only a handful of them, or 2 or 3, are insurable, where you could transfer the risk to a third party. So that leaves, a few key things that businesses are struggling to find the answers to. They can't offload their risk. They got to deal with it. They got to figure out how to deal with it themselves. And what I'm talking about are things like human capital, things like supply chain, things like reputational risk. And there might be some products out there that you can offload some of that. But really, these challenges are ones that businesses have to hit head on and figure out how to deal with. So the Graham Company, and my division of the company in particular, is really trying to help companies get beyond what insurance can do for them and really figure out what it is that they can do for themselves to help mitigate these risks and achieve their strategic plans.
So, I mean, look, companies have faced risk and have needed insurance solutions forever. In fact, I would say there would be no business. There would be no business, full stop, if we didn't have insurance brokers that allowed us to scale. But tell me really what is on the mind right now of some of your customers. What's their top priority?
Yeah, their top priority is labor and their people. I think a lot of companies talk about people as their greatest asset. But not a lot of companies know what it really means to manage and completely invest into that asset to maximize the output of it. And I think the companies that are doing it well aren't struggling as bad as the companies that don't do it well at all. And companies are struggling to find labor. They're struggling to find talent. The talent war is really difficult. And so we're really trying to bring some mindfulness to what are some things that companies can do to put themselves in a better position. But I'm also trying to change the minds of companies on where this responsibility lies. Human capital management, I think, has always been kind of relegated over to the human resources department. That's their issue. Find us people to hire, onboard them, help maintain a culture. That's always been viewed, I think, as like the human resources function in a job. We're trying to change that mindset, and that human capital management is just as big of a risk as anything the company faces, that risk managers and chief financial officers need to be worried about. Risk begins and ends with the people. You can engineer out risk, you can take precautions, but at the end of the day, your people make decisions and do things that create risk for the organization. And unless you're dealing with the root cause, the human element, you're not really getting to the crux of where the risk is coming from an organization. So we think you got to deal with the whole person. We come to work every day with our whole self, everything that's going on in our lives. Like it or not, the employers, you have to learn how to deal with that. And if you're not equipped to deal with it, or help out, you're going to be in a much worse position than your competitors that understand this.
So help me understand this a little bit, Carl. So what would be a product that you guys would have that would assist in terms of human resource and talent management?
Sure. So we, as part of our human capital initiative, we have an extensive assessment that first helps companies identify where it is that they are falling short. A lot of companies, they've been operating the way they've been operating, and you hear this saying, well, that's the way we've always done it. And they don't get the benefit of an outside perspective. And so what we're doing is we're helping these companies open their eyes to what others are doing. And by assessing what they do today and benchmarking it against best practices across many different industries. So we're able to pinpoint for them where maybe they fall short as compared to competitors, or even things that are being done in other industries in all areas, in attracting, in hiring, in onboarding talent, in performance management, and in total rewards. So the whole spectrum. One of the interesting things that we found, and this is kind of really interesting, in that every employer I talk to is struggling to hire. And then once they do hire, one of the key results that or indicated or stats that we've uncovered is that only 12% of employees feel like they were onboarded properly to their new organization. So here are companies who are struggling to hire. And when they finally do hire somebody, they don't do an effective job bringing that person on board and into the culture, assimilating them in. So it's like, talk about shooting yourself in the foot. And you wonder why you're struggling to hire people. One of the best sources of being able to hire would be a new employee that just came to a company and said, wow, I just joined a great company. And they call their friends and they say, you should come work here too. Well, we're not doing that. Companies are not doing that. They're hiring, they're scrambling to hire people, and then they only onboard them effectively 12% of the time. And so when people hear this statistic, they begin to think, well, what should we be doing to onboard? And that's some products that Graham Company has, is to help people implement some new ideas and ways to onboard talent.
I love that. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think that perhaps because the talent wars have been so aggressive, so difficult, just getting someone in, everyone kind of breathes a sigh of relief.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, we filled that open position, and then we move on to the next thing, and before you know it, they leave because they didn't.
I mean, I don't know if it's, certainly with junior people, it's one set of challenges, but with senior hires, it's even perhaps a greater challenge, because they have the ability to really affect the culture of a place quite quickly. And if they're kind of not onboarded correctly, it can really have a big challenge. But let's change gears a bit. And, certainly you've had an amazing career, and I really love the way you talk about some of these issues. But, what drives you? What gets you up in the morning?
Well, I think what drives me the most is solving problems. I tend to get bored easily. And so when there's a new challenge or a new problem to solve, it gives me energy. And, my clients are, great people that have great stories. They're mostly closely held businesses, right? So we're talking about a family-owned company. And, sometimes it's second, third, fourth generation. And they're dealing with problems, and being one of those trusted advisors that they call to help solve that problem gives you energy, knowing that there's people out there that respect you enough and trust you enough to tell you about their most difficult problems and look to you for solutions. That's where, I get energy to get up and go to work.
Yeah, no, I can see how that's a good fit, because the reality is, I know that when we bring on insurance providers and solutions, it's usually when we have a thorny challenge to try to figure out how we get to the next phase or the next scale, or, acquire something or bring something in where there's a level of risk that perhaps shifts the model. It's always quite demanding, and you really need kind of, I'd say, big brains working on some of this stuff. But, here we are, Carl, in a year full of challenges in 2023. We came out of the pandemic, and I guess, what do you say, kind of you come out of the water, you jump right into the frying pan type of idea. We're in this lovely economic cycle. What are you guys seeing out there in 2023, and what's on the horizon for you?
Well, I think there's fears in the air. I mean, I think people are concerned about a recession, obviously interest rates, a lot of headwinds, economic headwinds for companies. So I think people are being cautious right now. I think I've already talked a great deal about labor challenges. I do see the market for labor shifting a little bit back towards an employer having a little bit more influence in it because of some of the recessionary fears that are out there, and interest rates and inflation. So it's a real interesting time. I think I see companies that have really aggressive goals that they're unsure, and maybe have started to hit the brakes a little bit on their goals, on maybe not building that extra plant or not expanding operations. So I think people are being cautious. M&A activity has slowed down. I think there was a report I just read yesterday about M&A activity in the first quarter kind of slowed down. So there's just a lot of very competing things going on in the market that it's like a time I don't think people have ever really experienced. Right? I don't know if anybody has the answer, like, oh, we've seen this before, because it's not like it was in 2008, 2009. It's not like it was the dot-com bubble back in the early 2000s. It's just a little different. So
yeah, feels a little different for sure. But certainly, I mean, all of the challenges that you and the team have faced and helped companies with are things that everyone's going to need no matter what, almost timeless. Carl, if someone needed and wanted to speak with the Graham Company and you and learn more about what you're working on, where's the best place to reach you?
Well, email is probably the best way to reach me. That's cbloomfield@grahamco.com. I could also call the Graham Company, our office in Philadelphia, and you can get to me through the directory. It's a pretty digital world these days. You can type my name in, and I'm sure you'll find a few different ways to contact me. LinkedIn is another way to reach out.
Excellent. Well, Carl, thank you so much for being on UNCAGED today. We've been speaking with Carl Bloomfield. He is the managing director at the Graham Company, looking after enterprise risk and advisory services. And it's an interesting times, but as I said up front and throughout, everyone always needs advice and support in this particular area. Carl, thank you so much for being on the UNCAGED show today, and we look forward to having you back.
Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.